Did Doug Ford just crack under pressure and finally admit the truth? And is it going to ruin Justin Trudeau's plans?
You can go to Costco, you can go to Walmart, you can go shopping. You know, you don't know if the person has a shot beside you or not, but we also know that it doesn't matter if you have 1 shot or 10 shots, you can catch COVID. See, the Prime Minister has triple shots, and I know hundreds of people with 3 shots that caught COVID. We just have to be careful. We've got to always make sure we wash our hands and move forward. But, Colin, we can't stay in this position forever. We got to learn to live with this and get on with our lives. I bet if I asked every single person in this room, do you want these damn masks or do you want them off? They want them off. They want to get back to normal. They want to be able to go for dinner with their families. And there's every single person, including myself, knows people that are unvaccinated. You know, sure, there's the rebel rousers, and then there's just hardworking people that just don't believe in it. And that's their choice. This is about, again, a democracy and freedoms and liberties. And I hate, as a government, telling anyone what to do. We just got to get moving forward and get out of this and protect the jobs. You know, I think a lot of people, Colin, probably yourself too, everyone's done with this. Like, we are done with it. Let's start moving on and cautiously. And, you know, we've followed the rules, all of us, like 90% of us, for over 2 years. The world's done with it. So let's just move forward.
Doug Ford, after closing gyms and facilities in winter like a psychotic authoritarian tyrant, finally cracked under the soul of the people, admitting the truth. I mean, how long can these politicians possibly gaslight and lie to you? Way too late, you're still a shameful man, but good job, Doug Ford, telling the truth. Heck, even Justin Trudeau from 2012 doesn't agree with himself now. He said back then, when a government starts trying to cancel dissent or avoid dissent is when it's rapidly losing its moral authority to govern. Harper in 2005. Wow. What foresight Justin Trudeau had. Or as I like to call him, Justin Trudoofus. He is the tyrant that he used to fear. John Bow said, "I weep, my tears are turning to fire. I weep angry tears for humanity. Trudeau must go. Why is no free Western government saying anything? If this were happening in Moscow or Beijing, they'd have plenty to say. Why is our government not speaking up for the people of Canada?" Good question. You finally figured out that our Western democracy is BS, and our media corps, sports leagues, etc. don't give a lick about freedom here. All they do is gaslight us with fake activism and virtue signaling about other countries, while our own cities look like a third world hell zone. Now, I wanted to highlight some left-wing progressive channels finally figuring out what's going on. Secular Talk Kyle Kulinski, he said, Canada trying to freeze the bank accounts of trucker protesters with zero process and oversight, calling them terrorists, is a precedent that will be used against any and all protests. You have to oppose it regardless of what you think of the substance of the protest. He followed it up with, if any time you protest they can freeze your bank account and label you a terrorist, that functionally bans protesting. It's absolute insanity not to oppose this. It's shocking authoritarianism. You're about 2 years late, Kyle, but I appreciate you. They actually did this during the lockdown. It's just after 2 years, people are catching on to the fact that they're using this pandemic as a total excuse to go full-blown authoritarian. In fact, Dave Smith on Joe Rogan's podcast breaks it down perfectly with how drastically they've changed society. Most people don't think of it this way. Take a listen.
This really stuck with me. He goes, when you're living through a revolution, you don't necessarily know, oh, the revolution started today. And now I'm in the revolution. Yeah. And this is 5 days into the revolution. You know, it's not till like years later that you look back at it and go, oh, I guess that was a revolution. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I don't know if that's exactly how you would describe the COVID regime, but in many ways, I think it's changed life more than a traditional revolution would. You know, like if a regime was overthrown by a coup and someone else took power, it certainly wouldn't necessarily upend every single social norm down to like showing your face in public or shaking hands or what you're allowed to do, or what the rise of COVID has done has been really like unbelievably profound.
Man, he's really crushing this explanation. Let's listen more.
It's changed everything about our society. And the idea that while this is all happening, you're not allowed to like question it, to think about like, I'm not sure this is the right decision. I think maybe this is wrong. I think maybe we should do this. That all throughout it, these voices have been silenced off of social media, and they've been really demonized in a very aggressive way. And so many of them have turned out to be right.
Even Vaush caught on to this, who is some sort of left-wing character who has created a big following on YouTube, being somewhat likable and brainwashing people into thinking that leftism is a good idea. But anyway, credit where it's due. He said, "What the F?" to Trudeau vows to freeze anti-mandate protesters' bank accounts. He said, "Don't mind me just using emergency powers to freeze the asset of protesters." He followed it up with, "I'm begging people to understand you can oppose the anti-mandate protests and still understand that the government having the ability to unilaterally freeze your assets with no court order is a effing terrifying precedent to set against protesters." That's true, Vaush. Except anybody with half a brain wouldn't be opposed to anti-mandate protests because it really is just anti-authoritarian protests and stopping medical tyranny. But since you're kind of like a half-wit pea-brain, thank you for understanding that this is horrible. Appreciate it, Kyle Kulinski. I appreciate it, Vaush. We don't have to agree on everything. This is America, for now, until politicians who act like Justin Trudeau in Canada ruin it here in this country as well. Watching Vaush and Kyle Kulinski at the end stages of freedom finally figure out that left-wing leaders in Canada and even in our country are going too far, it reminds me of Yuri Bezmenov talking about how the left is really just useful idiots who are only useful to bring about this Marxist communist ideology to the country, and as soon as the useful idiots give the power to big government and the corporate merger, then they're not useful anymore. They're going to be eliminated or disposed of, similar to Kyle and Vaush, who really only serve a purpose in the destabilization of our country and the authoritarian takeover. Take a listen.
People who've been programmed and, as you say, in place and who are favorable to an opening with the Soviet concept. These are the very people who would be marked for extermination in this country?
Most of them, yes. Simply because the psychological shock when they will see in future what the beautiful society of equality and social justice means in practice, obviously they will revolt. They will be very unhappy, frustrated people. And the Marxist-Leninist regime does not tolerate these people. They will join the links of dissenters, dissidents.
Yes.
Unlike in present United States, there will be no place for dissent in future Marxist-Leninist America. Here you can get popular like Daniel Ellsberg and filthy rich like Jane Fonda for being dissident, for criticizing your Pentagon. In future, these people will be simply squashed like cockroaches. Nobody is going to pay them nothing for their beautiful, noble ideas of equality. This they don't understand, and it will be greatest shock for them, of course. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years. Actually, it's overfulfilled because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes his balls, then he will understand, but not before that.
For those who don't know, Yuri Bezmenov was a KGB defector who worked for the Soviet Union, left to the Western world, told his story. I actually have a great interview with G. Edward Griffin, who conducted that interview. You should try to find it on YouTube or Facebook. But that's what it is. Daily Wire recently reported DC will require masks for students despite dropping mandates at bars, restaurants, and strip clubs. It's hard to imagine how any sane person would vote for the Democratic Party again. I pray that the Republicans win in a landslide. Why are people staying silent about this child abuse and letting these psychopaths in the school system and in the government abuse your children while making it easier to go to casinos, smoke cigarettes in Vegas, or go to a strip club? I mean, are people this morally degenerate in this country? I'm no saint, but this is like new levels of evil that I couldn't have even imagined a few years ago becoming normalized. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you. Have a beautiful day. Dreamrare.com. Pick up a hat or a shirt if you'd like to support. stayintouchwithme.com, my free email list, Dream Rare on Instagram and TikTok, give me a follow, and Dream Rare Chat on Telegram. Have a good day.